The Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution was from the 1750s to the 1900s. This had a great impact for the way people in Europe and the United States lived and worked. Inventions. The seed drill. The seed drill was used to plant down seeds into the earth instead of putting the seeds onto the surface, which was a bad idea as the virus would have been blown away or eaten by animals such as birds. Jethro Tull's seed drill was estimated that his invention produced a crop 5 times bigger than had been achieved on that same area of land using their old methods. Because Tull's seed drill became so successful, many people had lost their jobs because they were no longer needed. So now they had probably not enough money to support their families, which meant they had to look for more jobs. The spinning jenny. In the 1730s, a man, John Kay, came up with an invention calling it the flying shuttle, which was made to make weaving faster. But people only started using his method in the 1750s, so they realized they needed a new spinning method. Then, in the 1760s, James Hargreaves invented the spinning jenny, which made spinning faster. Before, the spinners only spun 8 spindles of yarn, but now they were able to hold more than 100 spindles at once. This really saved up more time for the workers, and now they could spin much more spindles and even faster. Life in factories. Life in factories were quite cruel for the workers as there were no laws during the industrial, so the factories were very dangerous during this time. Working in a factory was also very harsh as the workers would work about 12 hours or more a day, and the heat would make the working conditions very uncomfortable as there were small windows and it was very hard to breathe. It was dangerous for the workers because there were no safety guards around the moving parts, nor were the machines fenced off, which meant anyone, particularly children, would get injured easily, also having to climb under and go between machines so they could continue to operate. And they had to also crawl under running machines to collect loose pieces of cotton. The workers could have also got very sick if they got residues which is inside cotton, like dust, getting into their lungs. Another reason life is very hard in the factories is because if you stopped a machine, you would get punished very badly. You would get knocked over onto the floor again and again, and if you tried to get back up, you would constantly get abused again. You would usually get beat until you're out of your mind or even beat until you're dead. Child labour. Imagine young teenagers and 6-year-olds having to work. Well, the children in the 1800s didn't have to imagine. It was actually quite normal for children to be working ages 6 to their teenage years. There are even more children working than adults sometimes. In 1788, around 2/3 of workers in the cotton mills were actually children. It was very dangerous, especially for the younger children, in the factories as well as the mines. In factories, they were employed as piercers. Their job was to repair broken threads and lean over spinning machines while they were still running. Because the children would have to watch more than one machine at a time, they walked a lot, and it was estimated they walked about 30 kilometres a day, which is the same distance of walking from Chadstone all the way to Footscray. Children were also employed as scavengers who had to collect loose cotton and other waste. Children also worked in the coal mines, working from ages 4 to 5. Their jobs were to be trappers and hurriers. Where both of these jobs were very dangerous, being a hurrier was much worse. Girls around ages 6 to 7 could be employed to be a hurrier. Hurriers had to carry baskets of road trucks of coal to the surface. A belt or chain would be placed around a girl's waist to carry the coal. Because the coal was so heavy, it could damage their pelvic bone, and many women that worked in the coal mines as children after died in childbirth. Children from 4 to 5 worked as trappers. The trappers had to open and close doors inside the underground tunnels to let the hurriers go through. They usually just sat in the very dark place for an extremely long time. On the left is a trapper, and on the right is a hurrier. Another job children participated in was chimney sweeping. Chimney sweeping was very dangerous for anyone, and not just children, but boys from 6 years old were already working. Their job was very dangerous as they had to climb up to the chimneys and clean it up with a metal scraper. A lot of the workers were choked to death due to inhaling the dust or falling down the chimneys. Housing. Most of the housing in the 1800s was built by factory owners to be rented out to the workers. Many of the houses were built only on one site and were very poorly constructed because the factory owners did not want to spend much money on these people and to have money for things that they thought were much more important. To have a better house, some families rented older buildings that were owned by the more well-off. It was very crowded in the houses as one whole family would be able to fit in one room. The houses were also built back to back and had no gardens or backyard space. The streets were filled with rubbish and raw sewage, and the streets were very narrow, so pickpocketing was easy and the things were easily stolen. The houses either had no windows or just small windows. The water they used and consumed were from wells or rivers. Unlike today, we don't have those things.